Hey, what is up everyone? I am Piglet here once again, and I'm back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Yoshi's Crafted World for the Nintendo Switch. So last time we have managed to able to fully complete it in terms of what worlds that we did already explored on. We did manage to able to wrap things up with the acorn forest, while simply able to go through not only for the sake of the forms of the last Souvenir Huntings, but also we did manage to deal with the forms of the next main boss, which appears to be Spike the Piranha, and managed to able to get ourselves, we got ourselves our second Dream Gem. So today, we're about to be continuing things on and move on to the next world, which is Stark Carnival. And I think in this particular level itself, or this world rather, much like the forms of how it does it in Sky High Heights, this particular world does retain 3 levels. So, first level we have is Spin Wheel Shuffle. So in this case, in this particular level's case, we got ourselves all kinds of familiar platforms, as you can see, such as, of course, the spin wheels themselves. Like, if you stand some of these platforms onto the right or left, depending on what directions you're going to be going into, especially noticeable whenever we get onto the flip side version of that specific levels like these, then, you know, it's just a matter of preference about the fact that you would able to make your way to certain parts throughout the level. So, as you can see, there are these ravens right there. These enemies do make a return ever since in, well, I would say for the first appearance of the ravens, as far as I'm aware, is of course the one that started it all is in Yoshi's Island. So at least even then, though, that once again they managed to able to walk around on that particular familiar moon or something like that. Well, sort of feels like a moon, but kind of weird thing about this is the fact that this level is usually a daylight kind of syndrome. So either way though, enough about that, but either way though, just like the forms of Yoshi's Island or something, is the fact that the only way you can able to defeat the ravens is the fact that you have to, you know, just squish them with onto their heads. So even then, that way you can able to kill them from there. So yeah, everything else to be expected with those raven looking enemies, as you can clearly see. So, and also as you can see on screen, I'm going to be selecting the final variation of that specific color for Yoshi, which this time around, as you can see, we are now selecting purple this time around. So because of that, I'm pretty sure we've managed to able to now gone through all 8 different color variations of Yoshi's themselves now. So even then though, everything else will be should be pretty pleasing to the eye, especially noticeable until whenever we get on to the next world or something like that in the future. Then we can, sure enough, we can able to actually just to reselect the different color variations of some of these Yoshis again. Mainly with like going back onto likely a blue color variation or something like that. But then again though, we'll see what happens there, and during at some point in, well, I would say when it comes to likely next Thursday or something, because as you can clearly tell, today's day is the forms of the 15th of March today in 2020. So for those of you Animal Crossing fans out there, only likely lesser than 5 days left until the actual new, Animal Crossing New Horizons will be releasing on the Nintendo Switch. But then again though, it's not my cup of tea sadly, but either way though, that for those of you Animal Crossing fans out there who expect to be super excited about that title, then more power to you, because even then though, that's to be expected by that point. So, and I suppose another thing I want to discuss upon also is the fact that, well, I'll explain more about it whenever we move on to the next level actually, because there's not much else I can really speak of apart from the fact that we can able to discuss upon the actual main levels, as you can see right there. But when it comes to doing, like, you know, Souvenir Huntings and stuff like that, most of the time we're just gonna have to likely just to explain about certain things. So, and also we got these very familiar enemies returning ever since, and I would say the last time we see these bullet bills in the Yoshi game, which is actually in Yoshi's Woolly World. So they behave exactly like how it did in the forms of how it does it from last time. So even then, no, except, well, they're now made out of like shiny plastic objects rather than just woolies themselves. So I guess that makes it a little bit obvious for specific stimulations for the most part though. So anyways, oh god, we got another time challenge right here, but I get a horrible feeling it's gonna be likely popping those 3 balloons again, which sure enough there is. However, the easiest thing this time around, as you can see, is the fact that if you step onto that particular moon over there, thankfully it's a little bit more easier than the forms of how it does it in the previous 2 levels, as far as I'm aware, because of how the fact that sometimes if I was trying to aim with that specific egg tossing sometimes I wasn't really peculiarly accurate with all that stuff. Mind you, if you couldn't tell already, because I'm using the directional pad for the majority of the time, just because with 2D platformers it's actually really good with, you know, directional pads like so. So, at least expecting that will be the case, regrettably. So, either way, I suppose another thing I just want to talk about this actually is the fact that recently the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate does receive some more spirit battles, which this time around is actually based off from Ring Fit Adventure, which, to be honest with you guys, I have managed to able to actually accomplish that, but it actually took me quite a few hours to able to actually just access to, well, it did say it only has 3 spirit battles in Ring Fit Adventure types, so at least expecting that will be the case though, because even then that the dragon kind of spirit battle was actually the hardest one, just because in addition to having yourself some more health. But I've noticed that some people might actually say about the fact that Hero might be a good choice when it comes to dealing with the forms of that particular spirit battle, because afterwards though he'll actually transform into, well, it's actually Incineroar in giant form, and then as a result you can able to actually transform into himself the metal version of himself every once in a while. So, at least expecting that'll be the case though, and I think the actual moveset for Hero, the actual metal shaft or something like that, might be pretty handy though. But then again though, that it actually took me quite a few hours to able to actually just to go ahead and just get access to all of these spirit battles as far as I'm aware for the Ring Fit Adventure. But then again though, we'll see what happens there and during that some form or another, but that's how it goes basically. So either way though, that's as far as I can say about it. So anyways though, so we did manage to finish up this level right there, but unfortunately however though, is that, for I've noticed something quite familiar for those of you viewers might actually know what is wrong with the actual 100% completion error. That is, well, take a guess, as soon as we keep pressing the A button after skipping those particular sequence, once again, I'm off by 1 red coin left. Goodness gracious, I wasn't paying attention to any kind of environments in the background or anything like that, so hopefully we'll try that again at some form or another by the end of this particular episode. But even then, let's move on to the next level, as you can see, which takes place in a haunted theme level, which this time is all made out of crafted stuff. So here we go with Haunted Maker Mansion. Oh, that seems a little bit weird title for this particular level right there, despite the fact that we're actually not making the Haunted Mansion. It was being made all by itself. But either way though, oh goodness gracious, the zombie-like Shy Guys are now approaching. But anyway, yeah, there's not much else we can say, apart from the fact that, well, speaking of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, actually, sadly, though, is the fact that with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate tournaments that was supposed to be happening in 3D forms of the European countries, sadly, though, it has been cancelled because of what else? The coronavirus is going to take over, which, as a result, most Smash Bros. Players seem to be is not so happy about this, especially noticeable if they really want to get ourselves some God knows trophies or something like that. Unfortunately speaking, is the fact that Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Tournament in real life actually, it has been officially cancelled just because of that again, the stupid coronavirus. Seriously, what is going on with this year, folks? I have no idea of how this year is gonna get, well, First of all, it's gonna get a nice stronger start when it comes to likely this year so far, but seems to be more accurate though that the coronavirus is gonna be ruined everything for the majority of everything else for the most part, which I gotta say I'm very ticked off by this fact. So yeah, you probably get the idea. And also that just like in I would say in the previous level, ever since in the very beginning or something like that, in order to actually just to progress or something, is the fact that, well, I don't know about you, but even then I do apologize with the lack of dialogue for the sake of time, just because seriously, we are getting so ticked off with that stupid coronavirus effect that it's getting worse and worse. In fact, potentially speaking, we'll discuss more about it whenever we get towards the end of, you know, specifically in 2020, especially how, well, you guys should probably only know about the fact that what, this year's gone super bare bones when it comes to content of gaming in mind. Especially that we still have no luck of any news release dates for Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, and that's why it's another example that we've now basically give up trying to wait for that game for this point, just because the actual rumors or leaks seem to always get false every time. But let's not worry about this too much, because either way though, I'm really still hoping, at least it's anything possible, that we get ourselves 2 directs during forms of later on in this month in particular, like getting ourselves the ND showcase first and then the normal direct afterwards. I'm really hoping that'll be the case because, well, it just really bugs me. It just so bugs me. Anyways, before we continue, I think there's going to be another, I just need to double check if there are any surroundings I've missed, but even then though, seems so far we're not missing anything else too much about it, and, jeez! Dang it, nope, there's no way I can get this, these 3 last blue coins. Yep, it looks like I've, failed the chance here, so I think this is one of the many, things I must consider, that this is probably well, these little blue ghosts, as you can see right there, these little ghost-like enemies, I think that these are by far the worst aspect of this level in my opinion, because as you can tell, since I've actually got eaten by the ghost straight off the bat, and what makes this even much more annoying is the fact that in addition to able to actually getting hurt most of your time, it also lose your Yoshi's eggs, and second, it actually drags you back all the way from that specific point right there. That is definitely the most annoying part about this level, because as a result, sometimes, I understand because it's all deadly looking and they can outright try to get you, but most of the time, well, you're gonna get hit a lot in this level, so don't expect things too much. And unfortunately, since I'm missing on one of the smiley flowers already, so as a result, yet again, I'll be back for more on that. Enjoying at some point on my— oh god, a Green Reaper guy! Oh jeez, I totally forgot about this sequence right here. But regardless, we got a checkpoint at least, so I'm really hoping that I'm not going to be missing on too much of those red coins all this much. Well, apart from saying this out loud, this means that I'm as well will be trying to miss those, you know, every single collectibles as it goes by, so that could be kind of obnoxious to deal with, but either way, that's how it goes basically, so yeah, a few things I want to explain about this when it comes to positive things out of the way though. Recently, I did manage to order not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 items I did recently ordered from, well, 4 of them from Amazon potentially, and 1 from eBay, which are considerably— well, first off, let's mention about the forms of the Amazon stuff, because most people seem to prefer Amazon over eBay sometimes, because in eBay's sake, although sometimes in certain items does seem to show up as in buy it now option, but for the majority of certain items though is the fact that they always shows us the stupid bidding system. But regardless of such though, let's talk about Amazon's selections of items I actually recently ordered first. First of all, I actually did manage to order 4 games, as I said before, and those are related to the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series, which there are Tony Hawk's Skateboarding and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, and well, both on the Dreamcast, by the way, for the first 2 games potentially. And also I've managed to order Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, and finally Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, both on the original Xbox, which the reason why I'm gonna go for the original Xbox versions of those 2 games, the 3rd and the 4th one, because, well, as far as I've noticed, I'm actually kind of a used to with the original Xbox's controller rather than the PlayStation 2 controller. I mean, sure, PlayStation 2 can be pretty good with certain 2D fighters or something like that, probably because of due to the PlayStation's very good D-pad controller for 2D fighting games. Speaking of which, actually, it's the fact that I recently reordered another copy of Dragon Ball Z Budokai 1 for the PlayStation 2. The only reason being for that is because despite it was actually still redundant, but unfortunately though, as much as we still managed to generally have that since 2017 or something like that. Oh jeez, I'm almost gonna get myself my first game over on this run. But thankfully though, we did manage to make it towards the end though, but we'll explain more about it whenever we're able to actually move on to the next level. Well, at least for more details about the forms of why I did recently order another copy of, you know, Dragon Ball Z Budokai for the PlayStation 2. But I digress. And as you can tell, I had a very, very rough time on this particular level, as you can see. And yet again, twice of Ableton missing on that one dang red coin left. Seriously, this is getting outright ridiculous at times. But hopefully, though, we're able to actually do that by the end of the video. So, here we go on to the last level on, you know, Cardstark Carnival. And that appears to be another special level, which this time around is Hoop Jump Hoop. Or Hop Jump Hop, which, well, Hoop Jump Hop, as far as I like to call it that. But either way, though, I do apologize for that tongue twisting for this point right there. So as you can see on this particular stage, as you can see, once again we have to able to get a certain amount of points until you're able to, God forbid, try to able to aim for, you know, just the 3 smiley flowers, as you can tell. But the biggest challenge of them all, though, as you can see right on the screen, as you can see on the top, on the bottom right corner, you have a 30 seconds time limit, which the more you're able to collect those clocks, as you can see, similar to the forms of Super Mario Galaxy 2 speed, you know, prankster comments, as you can tell, the more you collect those clocks, then you would able to actually reset your timer into its normal time, which I think is usually just goes in within 30 seconds each time whenever you're able to actually keep on adding more time. So definitely need to keep an eye on that, because apart from the fact that the actual objective on this particular stage is the fact that you need to, in order to actually get yourselves all the smiley flowers in this particular run, you have to collect a certain amount of points based off from how the fact that you can able to bypass for those rings, so, or hoops in general to be more precise, because as you can tell, it's actually almost inspires circus-themed worlds, which I gotta say, it is a pretty cool looking world, but it might be a little bit more flat around the edges though, I have to say for this method though, because even then though, they don't have that much obstacles. In fact, you can able to do this level within a no damage run, if you can clearly tell, probably because of how the fact that there aren't any spikes involved or anything like that. So hopefully I'll try and able to do a nice little run as I could. Oh, do I even make it to that certain amount? Oh no, so close. I'm off by 10,000. Or, well, not so much 10,000, but 1,000 points in general. I guess I'll come back for that level again and hopefully just trying to do a successful attempt within, well, just the amount of points I need to reach to. So, but all in all, a nice little level, especially noticeable that, well, I'm still off by quite a few amounts of those red coins, as you can see right there. But hopefully though, we're able to actually go after more of those red coins on this stage until by the very end of this video. So now these 2 paths has been opened, so this means we can now able to hit on to the level from the top, or even the one on the right. But ultimately speaking, we need to go after the 3rd dream gem to get at this point. So even then though, let's get started with the actual Souvenir Huntings first. Although, relatively speaking of Souvenir Huntings, at least for now on anyway though, we'll probably go ahead and say this right now, that we'll take a break on, well, we're not so much taking a break for these kinds of stuff, but either way though, let's head back on to Spin Wheel Spin Wheel Shuffle. Yeah, that's what the level's name was. I'm honestly not a big fan of this music for some reason though, because I get it, they're trying to make it a little bit more of a, well, a QT vibe or what have you. But I'm not a big fan of how the fact that the actual instrument choice is, even though it almost plays out exactly like how it did in the first ever music in this game, but I don't know, it's just, well, I'm just not a big fan of it, but I digress. So anyways, let's go ahead and keep an eye out with the surroundings, so just in case if we're able to spot it, those, you know, these Poochie Pups I can see. So even then, we were expecting to able to just to see how the fact that we were expected to able to do so. So yeah, anyway though, what I'm trying to say, oh yeah, because the reason why I managed to able to pick up my another copy of Dragon Ball Z Budokai for the PlayStation 2, not just because of how the fact that I don't mind about the game though, because I certainly find that game to be quite enjoyable, but unfortunately speaking is the fact that the ones I did manage to, or we did manage to got the game still back in 2017, unfortunately my condition of Dragon Ball Z Budokai on the PlayStation 2 was actually in a worst shape, which relatively speaking, because our game cover was actually almost teared up, and also my game case has actually gone all pretty bitey. It does have a lot of bite marks all over the place. And thirdly is the fact that my disc for Budokai 1 is actually quite scratched heavily, so it might be plenty of times I might actually come across into rare occasions where the audio might glitched up. Well, it did manage to work just fine on our PlayStation 2 as it is, but unfortunately though, it has been a pretty bad shape at this point. So that's why we've managed to able to actually just decide to able to get ourselves another copy of the game, but except this time around we managed to pick up a platinum version of the actual game. Although relatively speaking, because the reason why we point that out for the sake of time, just because I feel like the actual box cover for the European version of Dragon Ball Z Budokai doesn't make that much sense in terms of likely when it comes to certain parts or something like that, because, well, let's just say for example, and oh really, I'm off by one thing left again, but this time one of the souvenirs. Things gets a little bit rough around the edges at this point, especially I'm still off by a certain amount of stuff, which even then though, it just gets a little bit tedious enough as it goes by. But then again, you would still able to actually just to go back in the levels again, and then thankfully the actual progression is saved, so yeah, let's just head back into this level again, and I would able to actually find that godforsaken souvenir stuff, so yeah, let's go ahead and just, well, find it. Okay, so it turns out that, you know what this particular shifting platform thing I was on about with, you know, with the actual spin wheel stuff? Well, it's not much in this particular part right there, but to be more accurate, right over there, I can definitely see it from the bottom. This means I actually accidentally missed that, or even ignored that, just because of how the fact that I'm potentially trying to be focusing on the actual Poochie Pups themselves, more than the actual Souvenir Huntings itself. Oh, jeez. I just have no idea I keep on bypassing certain items and stuff like that on a few rare occasions where I always attempt to do that all the time right there, which is always aggravating me sometimes, but I digress. So, at least we managed to got that at least, so what's next? Well, after that, skipping a little brief of dialogue right there. A Poochie picture, so I think it's gonna be on a mansion-themed level, but on the flip side, so, oh boy, we're gonna get wrecked a lot in that level for the sake of, not only for those ghosts, but also the actual Shy Guy Reaper, so, not sure it's something, so, yes, yeah, and I suppose that's the final thing I should probably point that out for the straight off the bat, that the final reason why that I did manage to pick up another copy of Dragon Ball Z Budokai for the PlayStation 2, probably because I've just realized is the fact that on the first release of the game on the PlayStation 2 version, in the European version of that specific game, some artwork pieces doesn't make sense, like for instance that, you know, with Dragon Ball Z Budokai, right? That particular story, in a particular story mode, it only takes place in the beginning of Dragon Ball Z, from Saiyan Saga all the way up to well, from Majin Buu Saga, at least in the regular anime. But in the actual game, Dragon Ball Z Budokai, the first Budokai game, they did start the story mode off by simply exploring through likely or just experience the story based off from the Saiyan Saga all the way up to Cell games. But to be more accurate though, is that the actual box art in the front cover as well as the back cover of the game, specifically the standard version of that particular game and the PAL version, the actual Majin Buu characters just managed to show up. And one of the characters showed up in the front cover, and quite a few of these Majin Buu characters did manage to make its appearance on the back cover, which doesn't make that much sense because even then, despite in the first Budokai game, does not able to actually feature most of these playable characters in the Majin Buu saga, as well as the actual storytellings and stuff like that. So something's worth mentioning, and plus because of how the fact that it just makes a little bit sense for me to able to go myself the platinum version of that specific game now, because thankfully the actual front cover and the back cover just now managed to become fixable and stuff like that, so at least I appreciate about that stuff. So but yeah, that's how it goes basically for the sake of time, folks, and there's not much else I can really say, despite with all these ups and downs recently. But apart from those side of things, though, it's a pretty okay day as it is. But then again, though, what really kills 2020 for ourselves at this point is, of course, that flipping coronavirus, which we keep on about it ever since during the films of, well, since I think I would say at the end of February or something, or maybe at the beginning of March, or anything for that matter, just because of how the fact that we're getting so sick of the forms of likely for cancellations and stuff. It's very understandable if we're able to cancel certain events, probably because we're probably not going to catch it at all. But either way though, still, it's incredibly aggravating. But if you're trying to able to be hyping for something, specifically game announcements or any film announcements or anything like that, and I suppose, speaking of which, for films department is the fact that recently in the UK version of Peter Rabbit 2, that the film I wasn't overly keen on, that film will be delayed until August this year, just because of, guess what? Coronavirus is going to take it over. So yeah, that's as far as I can usually think about it. And for the sake of time, I think for the majority of our lives at this point, we're probably going to be purchasing some of those retro video games once in a while, just because we feel like trying to try them, and also trying to add those games to our collection's sake. So yeah, that's why I get the feeling for the sake of the majority of the time. We're trying to do this particular Poochie Pop thing on the next special level right there, but let's just head back onto those previous 3 levels to do, what else? Finding some other collectibles and stuff, starting with Spin Wheel Shuffle for the goddamn last red coin, so I'll meet you guys there. Okay, you remember that particular present gift that we keep on about it? Well, there it is right there, and guess what it contains? Well, what else? The flipping red coin. Yep, I just flipping know it. And on the mentioned level, that there's actually a pop-up ghost right here. Well, we do need to aim for that ghost, and guess what? The red coin exists. And for the sake of time, let's do a successful attempt on getting that, the last smiley flower. But I suggest the actual best thing about this is the fact that you highly recommend you wait until that blue ghost decides to able to go to the other side, and then boom, there you go. And for the sake of clarity, we'll show you off the ending portion of the level again, just because if you can clearly tell, I actually did manage to get myself my full health. So as a result, there we go. We finally managed to able to gather all the smiley flowers in the forms of Haunted Maker Mansion, or the house. Well, I don't know exactly what I would call it that, but usually it calls it Haunted Maker Mansion, as far as I like to say. So there we go, folks. That pretty much takes care of those 2 levels, and now let's move on to what else? Hoop, Jump, Hop, for the sake of the last level. And if you couldn't tell already, this is my successful attempt while going through the last regular smiley flower, because the actual emphasis on this, as I said before, is to able to constantly going for those loops and stuff, or hoops I should say, or rings, whatever you want to call it. And also at the same time, you've got plenty of time to able to actually explore for quite a few bits and bobs. But I will say though, do not waste your time, because that way, if you, what I've noticed is the fact that if what happens if you do manage to run out of time on this level, well, it gives you a game over. So as a result, because as a result for that too, there aren't any checkpoints on this level either, so as a result, you're gonna have to do this in the first attempt or something, because if you somehow miss any of those chances left, well, chances are you're gonna have to cope for that stuff. So yeah, some things will keep that in mind, because apart from the fact that this stage can be quite tricky sometimes, at least assuming if you know the patterns or anything like that, but when you get used to it, it should be alright, as much as the fact that you're gonna have to keep on, searching for stuff, mainly with, very well hidden red coins occasionally, and some other times though that you might able to actually missing on something most of your time. So as a result, yeah, it can be a little bit of a busy work and stuff. So yeah, I do apologize with the lack of dialogue for this raid, so I must admit that I must have apologized for that. So even then, hopefully we will discuss more about it likely for next few sets of news or anything like that. Well, usually for the sake of time. I would mention about another thing I'd like to say about this here, but either way though, I suppose the final thing I should probably mention is the fact that recently, that the Super Mario Lego thing actually exists, which even then though, is pretty cool though, because even then, despite it is actually quite big compared to the defaults of how it does it on most other Lego pieces and stuff, but usually relatively speaking, I'll discuss more about it until likely so on next Tuesday, potentially speaking. So even then though, that way, because I'll talk about more information on that whenever we're able to move on to the next part. So as you can see right now, we got ourselves the, of course, the next smiley flower, as you can see. But once again, I'm off by a few red coins, which this time around, I'm off by, 3 left. So hopefully I'll find the last 3, and then everything will be good to go. So yeah, that's all I can really must confess at this point. So yeah, let's go ahead and wrap things up with this particular thing. Alright, so, you remember I said this before about the present gift? I keep on about it ever since then. Well, apparently I ignored that again. So that's the second time that I've been ignoring that. And plus, because of how the fact that with the actual coin structure sometimes, we're gonna have to keep on like walking around and stuff. So, and hopefully we were able to find, what else, the final 2 red coins. So there we go. And for the sake of time, I jump cut for the actual point right there, just because I don't feel like showing that off again. So, yeah, I guess for the sake of time, I think we should probably just go ahead and say this right now. We're probably gonna end things off at this point right there. So join me next time on Let's Play Yoshi's Crafted World for the Nintendo Switch. It's the fact that we might actually wrap things up with our Cardstock Carnival, which, go think about it, this video is kind of short as it is, probably because of that particular level on the top there was actually pretty short. But then again, we'll point it out whenever we get onto the Souvenir Hunting's continuing. So yeah, see you guys until on, let's just say on Tuesday. So yeah, that's all I can really discuss about this point. So yeah, see you then.